Hey, everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with David Meyer. David, a pleasure to have you calling in from Columbus, Ohio. I love Ohio. My dad's from Ohio. My mother-in-law's from Ohio. I have a lot of family in Ohio, so I always love talking to, anybody in Ohio. So welcome to the show. You are the managing principal of Meyer Wilson, a national law firm. You guys were founded to represent investment fraud and investment fraud victims in their fight against deceptive brokers. You are one of the nation's leading investment fraud firms, recovering millions of dollars for clients throughout the last 20 years. So let's talk about how to detect someone that you should not trust. Let's start there, right? So let's kind of work backwards to the moment where people say, I just, in hindsight, I see it. In hindsight, I felt it. In hindsight, I sensed it. Let's go there. What are those things that people need to look out for, right? From these, as you put it, deceptive brokers?
Absolutely, John. And thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it. So it's a great question. And if most people don't do the steps that are appropriate before they hire a financial advisor, only because they don't know about them. And if folks take a couple of the steps we can talk about before hiring a financial advisor, I guarantee you the chance of them ever being a victim of investment fraud, the chance of them ever needing to call a lawyer like me will go down substantially. That's one reason why I wrote the book, is because as a lawyer, as an investment fraud lawyer, once somebody is referred to me, unfortunately that they've already suffered the loss. It's my day job is to fight Wall Street and get the money back. But the reason why I wrote the book is, hey, wouldn't it be great to reduce these chances from ever happening?
Yeah.
Because when someone calls me, the first thing we do is what these people should do, what we all should do before we hire an advisor, and that's go online and do some research.
Yeah.
Of all the problems with Wall Street, one of the best things is it's the only industry that I'm aware of where you could go online for free in your pajamas, sitting in your living room, and do research about someone who you're about to consider entrusting your life saving. And that's going to brokercheck.org. It's run by FINRA, which is the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. It's a free it's an opportunity for free. It's a free service by the regulators to look up your advisor. You literally can go to brokercheck.org, type in the name of the advisor, either the one you're considering working with or the one that you're already working with. Even if you don't suspect the problem, everybody should do this. Type the name, type their brokerage firm name, and right there at your fingertips, you're going to get a report. It's going to talk about their employment history, their licensing history, whether they've had any problems with the regulators, whether they've had any customer complaints filed by lawyers like me. And right there, you're going to get an amazing amount of information right at your fingertips.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So let's talk about amazing information right at your fingertips, right? I am a huge fan of reading. You are the author of the Investor Protector Stories of Triumph Over Financial Advisors Who Lie, Cheat, and Steal. Okay, so your book, the reader is going to get what from reading their book? And I just want to say this: one of the things I love about your book is I love books that are divided into parts, specifically 3 parts, right? So it's like, because it's easily digestible just by the energy of the table of contents. So it's kind of like part 1, part 2, part 3. And so talk a little bit about what the reader is going to get as they go through the journey of each part.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I've done a lot of podcasts since the book was released in May or June of 2021, but no one's really mentioned that. And that was really a significant aspect of how I designed the book. So the first part is just explaining how the financial services is set up. So most people begin their financial literacy process when they come in contact with somebody from the financial services business, like an advisor or broker. And, there's an obvious conflict there, a conflict of interest. So the book is designed just to explain, hopefully in ways that we can all understand, how the business is set up, what to do, like we talked about, John, of what to do before you hire an advisor. So it's not, it's not a reference book. It's the book is our stories. So hopefully they're interesting. Of these are cases I've actually handled, situations that I've handled over the last 20 years. So again, first part is how is the industry set up and
Right.
what you should do before you hire an advisor. And the
Let's
second,
pause. Let's pause
go
for
ahead.
1 second because I think people learn well through storytelling. I wrote a book, The Think Big Movement. It's a business book told as a fable. It's told as a story, and so as they are reading the story, what do they what less what's just let's talk about part one for a minute. What you need to know before you invest. What's one lesson that they're going to extract from that story?
That a few minutes on the front end can save a lot on the back end. You can
Yeah.
protect your life savings that you've worked for 30, 40, 50, 60 years by doing about 30 minutes of work.
It's great. Okay, I love that. And one of the things I love from a storytelling standpoint, from a sales standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, anytime the formula of tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them, right? That's why I love the format of your book, because you're telling them what you're going to tell them, and then you tell them, and then you summarize what you told them. And so that's great stuff. Okay, so let's move into part two, because I think this is a really important topic. Most financial advisors don't lie, cheat, or steal, but some do. Okay, so what is the reader going to extract from this section?
What we've done is we've had over 1,000 clients over the last 20 years, and these cases and these stories are in my computers, in my file cabinets. And I just when I get calls, we get calls every week from folks who have just had devastating situations, and I know that, man, if they could have just if a lot of people can just learn from the stories of cases we've handled, they'll learn a lesson and hopefully minimize the chance that they'll become victims. So they're just going to read stories of cases I've handled on cases that have actually gone to judgment. There's actual real names. The ones we've settled, we changed the names because of confidentiality. But so instead of being told what to do or be told what not to do, these are just stories that people can relate to. People will be able to relate to how hard people have worked. And the trust they put in their advisor, and situations that their family members are in. A lot of us have elderly parents or elderly family members who are suffering some cognitive decline. They may be alone. They're going to be more susceptible to fraud, and I explain why and how. So I think these are, I hope, to be interesting stories where people will not only enjoy reading it, but then at the end say, wow, I really learned a lesson. I'm going to talk to my mom. I'm going to talk to my aunt, or I'm going to talk to my kids. So hopefully through these stories, you can learn why it happens and who it's happening to in terms of investment fraud, and really take away some lessons from it.
Yeah. I love that. And then you got part three. If something goes wrong, you'll need a lawyer, a great one. And what I love about that is the way you talk about that is, to grow a company, you need great people. And a lot of times at companies, people know that. They don't always do that, but they know that, right? Who are the people that I need to grow my business? Okay, so you put people in the right seats and you hire the right people, et cetera. You get a headhunter, et cetera. But in our personal lives, sometimes we don't think about all the who's we need to help us with the things that we don't know how to do or what to look out for. And so the who's in your case are, somebody to get us in front of a situation to save time and money. And here you have written a book to really help so many people. And so I think that's great. I want to chat with you a little bit about, you've been named twice, named Lawyer of the Year. And I want to chat with you, a lot of times, I don't think so much today, but back in the day, I'm 49 years old. People said to you, what do you want to do? Most people would say, I want to be a doctor or a lawyer. So when did today there's so many other, different types of careers, and many careers that haven't even existed yet that are coming out. Did you always know you wanted to be a lawyer? And who was your mentor that, led you there?
So I grew up in a small town. My father was a lawyer, was an entrepreneur, owned his own law firm, was a traditional plaintiff's lawyer that did personal injury and medical malpractice and that type of stuff. I don't do that now, but so he was my mentor. I didn't really ever think that I wanted to be a lawyer just because of that. But ultimately in college, and as I got to move to law school, I knew I wanted to help people, and I knew I wanted to own my own business. So ultimately, things aligned where I found this particular narrow niche of an area of practice that was different than what most other lawyers are doing, and then had the opportunity to build my firm around a passion that I learned was really the perfect mix for me, fortunately.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that. So your dad's a lawyer. You realized it was in alignment with your passion. When was that moment of alignment? Because I think a lot of times, that's hard for people to find, and people, I think, are really trying to find it right now as we record this, December 16th live 2021. People are on this journey of alignment, fulfillment, being in alignment with their values, et cetera. When did you know it, and what did it feel like? Because I think people can benefit from that.
And I talk about this. I've got a son who's in college, who's going through a lot of this as well. Even
What year in
that young.
college?
He's a sophomore at Emory.
Okay,
And
my son's a freshman at IU. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're just having this conversation last night, actually, at dinner. And I think a lot of people say, follow your passion. And to me, that's kind of empty. That's what rich people say, right after they've already done something. But what I say is, instead of that, because we all say that because it's easy, but it's not easy to do. My view is work really hard at whatever you're doing, work super hard, and then things follow from that. But for me personally, I got a job out of law school just because I needed a job. Actually, I was going to be a tax lawyer because I got a JD, which is a law degree, and a master's in tax. And I did that because actually my dad said, hey, there's a ton of lawyers out there. This is 25 years ago. And, you're not at Harvard or Yale, so you need something to distinguish yourself. And I just decided to get a tax degree just so I had something different than everyone else. That actually did get me a job. But while I was in that job, I was a second-year lawyer. I was 27 years old. A gentleman walked into the office, referred to my boss, and he had a problem with a stockbroker, and we didn't do investment cases. We weren't a plaintiff's firm. We were a business defense, tax firm. But the gentleman was referred to my boss. My boss declined the case because that wasn't what we did. And the gentleman was walking out. This is in my book, and I literally ran into this person. And that running into this person in that office, changed the course of my life. I talked to him. And that's another thing I talked to my kids. Hey, I could have just said, excuse me, and walked around him. And I just introduced myself. I was a young kid, and I asked why he was there. He told me, and he said he had a problem with the stockbroker, and I didn't know anything about it, but I was interested. Yeah. And I started doing some research. That case I ended up taking that case, ended up being a big class action. We went to a jury trial and got a $260 million jury verdict against Prudential Securities, all from that one chance meeting. And as a result of that, that's what I started my firm doing this kind of work. So, opportunities come, and I think there's a difference between taking advantage of opportunities, walking through doors that are open, and a lot of people, don't do that. And I think that's really the difference.
I love what you're saying. I don't know. I know I sent you my book, and I don't know if you read it. I don't know if you're going to read it. And one thing I learned about writing my own book: never ask anybody if they read the book, right? So it's, but my book is all about the people that come into your life that the universe sends, and you have to kind of seize in those moments and learn from them. They are potential teachers. And sometimes when you're walking by someone and like you, it's like you have to really. For some it's easy, for some it's not. Listen to your instincts to say, I'm supposed to talk to that person, even though I may not know that person or this and the other, because they may have the question or the idea that's going to really spark so many things in your future. So I'm very appreciative that you shared that story. I think it's so key. So your ideal client is who?
So our typical client is a retiree between 55 and 75 years old who has worked their entire lives, 30, 40, 50 years, to save up a nest egg that will hopefully last them through the rest of their life. Most of my clients have no real prior experience with the investment firms other than through a 401k. So they retire, they have a lump sum of several thousand, a few million, whatever it is, several hundred thousand or a few million, whatever it is. And then now they've got to decide, what do they do with it? Well, most folks don't want to manage the money themselves. And so that's why most folks who work their entire lives, doing something other than managing money, want to trust somebody with their life savings. They hand it over, and then that advisor has an obligation to recommend and implement a portfolio that's appropriate for that client. And unfortunately, sometimes that goes wrong, and those folks end up referred to me.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for sharing that. Quick speed round. You ready?
Yes.
Favorite book and why?
My favorite book is Rocket Fuel by Gino Hickman, I believe his name, who I read that book 4 years ago, and it's completely changed the course of my business.
Yeah. Gino Wickman. Wickman. Yeah. Great book. What did you love specifically about it?
It made me recognize that a successful business has a visionary and an integrator, and I wasn't both. And I was trying to be both for 15 years, and it wasn't until actually a business coach that I have recommended that book. And my law firm is 180 degrees different than it was 4 years ago because of that book.
Love it. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
I think persistence and just keep driving forward. There's a quote, and I forgot the name, but nothing in the world takes the place of persistence.
Yeah.
And that's what I live by.
Right. Said a very persistent person. Right. Yeah. Last question, David. One way people can tune into their instincts better is to
turn off the noise of the outside of social media and just spend more time just thinking about what they can do to improve their life. Just without all the noise of the outside. We have so many external factors.
Yeah.
I think very few of us take the time to shut it all out and think about, that we just go through our days and then years pass. Taking the opportunity to really think in quiet space and planning your future.
Yeah, I love that. David, I appreciate you coming on the show to talk about your story, your lessons, your book. Author David Meyer, The Investor Protector, Stories of Triumph over Financial Advisors Who Lie, Cheat, and Steal, managing principal of Meyer Wilson, a national law firm. Think community, if David can help you, please reach out. David, thanks for the lessons learned today and things to think about and get in front of. And one takeaway that I think is so important is, a couple minutes, 30 minutes of prep can save you so many hours, tens, if not hundreds of hours, but more importantly, heartache. And I think that applies to not only your world and your profession, but so many other things in business. I see, as a business coach who coaches solopreneurs to fortune companies and everything in between, it's the minutes that make the difference. It's the moments that make the difference. And the more we listen to our instincts and can tap into more effective moments and not ignore what we really, really need to do and be in front of, it saves so much time. And as you said, heartache. So I appreciate everything you share. Think community, thanks so much for tuning in. If David can help you, please reach out. David, thanks so much.
Thank you.